Welcome, listeners, to another My Mind MashUps deep dive, where we unravel mysteries, spark curiosity, and make sense of complex ideas together.
Absolutely, and I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, so before we get into the data, I want you to think about something for a second. Think about that sudden, really heavy sinking feeling in your stomach right when you get bad news.
Oh yeah, the instant drop.
Right. Or, those really distinct physical flutters you get just before you have to give a big presentation or step into a major meeting.
Or even think about that incredibly specific craving for like a heavy carb snack that hits you right at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like clockwork.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, culturally, we've always treated these moments as just, passing sensations that are entirely generated up in the brain.
Right, like it's all in your head.
Exactly. And historically, we viewed the whole digestive tract as just this passive plumbing pipe. Food goes in, the mechanics extract the nutrients, and then the process just ends.
But the science is showing that is so far from the truth.
It really is. So our mission today is to synthesize this huge stack of scientific summaries or research articles exploring the second brain and the gut-brain axis. We want to find out why that old plumbing pipe view is just fundamentally flawed.
Because those sinking feelings, the background anxiety, the stress eating, they aren't just in your head. They're actually driven by this hidden, bustling biological ecosystem.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand those everyday sensations, we have to look at the physical hardware operating inside you right now.
Yeah, and that hardware actually begins with something called the enteric nervous system, or the ENS.
The ENS, right?
Right. It's this massive, highly sophisticated neural network that's embedded directly into the lining of your gastrointestinal tract.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the gut has nerve endings, obviously.
Right.
But the sheer scale that these sources highlight is it's remarkable.
It's huge.
Yeah, the enteric nervous system contains over 100 million neurons.
Which is wild to think about.
Right. Just to visualize that, 100 million neurons roughly rivals the number of neurons in your entire spinal cord.
Yeah, it is just an immense network. And the ENS is so complex that it coordinates all these intricate muscular contractions of digestion, the release of enzymes, local blood flow, and it does this mostly independent of the brain in your skull.
Wow. So it's basically running its own show down there.
Pretty much. But, those 100 million neurons, they are really only half the story.
Oh, right. The actual microbiome.
Exactly. The other half is the microbiome itself. So the trillions of bacteria, fungi, and viruses that are inhabiting the intestines.
And reading through the sources, I kind of came up with the way to picture this. If your body is a planet, these microbes are the citizens working in the manufacturing plants, not just hitching a ride. They are actively performing vital biological labor.
That is actually a really accurate way to frame it. Yeah, they are not passive passengers at all.
Right.
Like when you eat indigestible plant fibers, your own human cells actually can't process them.
Really? We can't break them down.
Nope. But those microbial citizens, they step in and ferment that fiber. And in doing so, they excrete these byproducts called short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs.
Right, SCFAs. And the sources emphasize that these are absolutely critical for our health.
Oh, they are.
Think of a specific SCFA, like butyrate, as a kind of biological superglue. It basically provides the primary energy source for the cells lining your colon.
Which ensures those cells stay tightly bound together, yep.
Exactly. And when that barrier is tight, it prevents toxins and undigested food particles from, leaking out of the gut and getting into your bloodstream.
Precisely. And beyond maintaining that physical barrier, these microbes are also synthesizing essential vitamins, like vitamin K and various B vitamins.
Stuff we need every day.
Yeah, and they are constantly interacting with your immune system too, because think about it, the gut is a primary entry point for pathogens.
Well, sure, because of everything we eat and drink.
Right. So your microbes actually help train your immune cells. They essentially teach them the difference between, say, a harmless piece of broccoli and a truly dangerous infectious agent.
That is wild. So, okay, since we have this hidden city of trillions of microbes working alongside a neural network the size of the spinal cord, we have to look at the communication infrastructure.
The group chat, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how does the activity in the gut actually reach the brain up top?
Well, the communication relies on the gut-brain axis, which functions as this bidirectional 24/7 data exchange.
Okay.
And the primary physical connection for this exchange is the vagus nerve. It's this really thick cranial nerve that runs all the way from the brainstem down into the abdomen, and it branches out to touch multiple organs.
And when I reviewed the data on the vagus nerve, it honestly made me reevaluate how I picture our internal hierarchy.
So,
Well, we tend to view the brain as the undisputed CEO, right? Like it's just issuing top-down commands to the rest of the body.
oh, sure, that's the standard model.
Right. But looking at the numbers, 80 to 90% of the nerve fibers in the vagus nerve are afferent.
Which means they travel bottom up.
Exactly. They carry signals from the gut up to the brain. The brain is receiving vastly more information from the gut than it's actually sending down.
It really changes our understanding of biological authority, doesn't it?
It completely flips it.
Yeah, and the information traveling up that nerve is largely chemical. The gut basically acts as a massive manufacturing hub for neurotransmitters.
Like a chemical factory.
Exactly. Like, certain bacteria actively brew GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that dampens nerve activity and promotes a state of calm,
Okay.
while others produce precursors for dopamine, the chemical that drives motivation and reward.
And we also know that roughly 90% of the body's serotonin, which is, the main neurotransmitter we heavily associate with mood regulation, 90% of it is produced in the digestive tract.
Yep, 90%.
But the persistent mechanical question I had while reading this was, if that serotonin is locked behind the blood-brain barrier and can't physically travel from the gut into the brain, how does it actually influence our mental state?
What's fascinating here is how the signaling bypasses that physical barrier entirely.
Okay, how does it do that?
So the serotonin produced by those specialized cells in your gut doesn't actually need to travel to the brain. Instead, it binds to receptors right there on the vagus nerve endings, which are located in the intestinal wall.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and when the serotonin binds, it triggers an electrical impulse. That impulse is what travels up the vagus nerve, and then that stimulates regions of the brain to modulate your mood.
Wow. So the chemical physically stays in the gut, but the message it dictates shapes how the brain experiences the entire day.
Exactly.
So the gut is essentially functioning as like the rhythm section of a band, setting the baseline tempo for our psychological state.
That's a great way to put it.
But if the gut sets that baseline mood, it kind of forces us to examine what happens when that ecosystem degrades.
Right, and that leads to a state known as dysbiosis.
Which is what exactly?
It's basically a structural imbalance in the microbiome. This happens when the overall diversity of those microbial citizens drops, or when certain populations expand way beyond their healthy boundaries.
And the sources map out specific population shifts, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, there are very clear patterns.
For instance, having a high concentration of a bacterial phylum called Bacteroides, combined with a lower concentration of firmicutes, that often correlates with a leaner phenotype and a really stable mood.
Yep.
But when the balance flips, and certain firmicutes dominate, which usually happens due to like a highly processed, low-fiber diet, the system just becomes highly efficient at extracting excess energy and promoting this low-grade inflammation.
And the mechanism of that inflammation is just crucial to understand.
Break it down for us.
So, when dysbiosis occurs, the production of those protective short-chain fatty acids drops.
The biological superglue dissolves.
Exactly. The gut barrier weakens and it becomes more permeable. This allows compounds like lipopolysaccharides, which are basically structural pieces of bacterial cell walls, to slip out of the gut and into the bloodstream.
And I imagine the immune system immediately recognizes those compounds as foreign invaders.
Exactly. The immune system mounts a defense, and it starts releasing inflammatory chemicals called cytokines.
Okay, cytokines.
Right. And as these cytokines circulate, they physically wash over those vagus nerve endings we talked about.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the vagus nerve detects this heightened immune activity and just fires rapid danger signals straight up to the brain.
And how does the brain interpret that?
The brain interprets this neuroinflammation by initiating what's called sickness behavior, which, we consciously experience as anxiety, lethargy, or just that heavy cognitive block we call brain fog.
So the alarm is triggered by a localized breach down in the basement, but the sirens are ringing all the way up in the attic.
That is exactly what's happening.
And to prove this isn't just, a casual correlation, the research highlights some truly remarkable animal studies.
Oh, the fecal transplant studies. Those are wild.
They really are. Scientists took fecal transplants, meaning they basically extracted the gut microbiome from human patients who were diagnosed with clinical depression.
Right.
And when they transplanted that human microbiome into healthy animals, those animals actually began exhibiting anxious, depressive, and anhedonic behaviors.
Yeah, it's incredible. The structural makeup of the gut actively induced a specific psychological state in the host animal.
It's mind-blowing. If you enjoy content that makes you think a little deeper about how the world and even your own body really works, take a moment to subscribe and share My Mind MashUps.
Because understanding this connection is really vital, but we also have to recognize the bidirectional nature of the vagus nerve, too.
Yeah, and let me actually pause and push back on the implications here for a second, because we need to be really careful not to reduce complex human psychology to just a single variable. Because when we talk about cytokines firing and animal behaviors completely changing, it almost sounds like we are saying clinical depression or severe anxiety is purely a bacterial problem.
And that is an essential clarification to make. The microbiome is a really powerful influence, yes, but it is not a mind-controlling puppet master.
Right.
When we discuss the gut-brain axis in relation to mental health, we are identifying a complementary support system. It's a biological lever that helps regulate your baseline chemistry.
Okay.
But it does not replace the need for professional therapy or targeted psychiatric medication or dedicated medical care.
That's a really important distinction.
Yeah, supporting the gut is kind of like ensuring the foundation of a house is solid. A good foundation doesn't automatically fix a leaking roof, but, it prevents the entire structure from settling and cracking under stress.
That makes perfect sense. It's a foundational support, not the sole author of our mental health.
Precise.
But since we've established that the gut heavily influences our baseline chemical state, we have to look at how it might actively intervene in our daily decisions, specifically regarding, what we actually choose to eat.
Ah, yes. The mechanisms behind cravings are where the biology just feels deeply counterintuitive.
Right.
Yeah, because different microbial populations require completely different energy sources to survive. Some populations thrive strictly on complex plant fibers.
And others.
Other populations flourish on simple sugars and refined carbohydrates.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
It's like you think you're the only one driving the car, but you actually have trillions of backseat drivers actively trying to steer you toward a drive-thru.
It really is like that. At a chemical level, they are literally fighting for survival.
Wow.
When the sugar-dependent bacteria are deprived of their fuel, they don't just quietly starve.
What do?
They release signaling molecules that actually interfere with your appetite regulation. Some of these microbes can produce hunger-mimicking peptides that trick your brain into feeling famished.
And the sources also detail how they disrupt satiety signals too, specifically a hormone called GLP-1.
Yes, GLP-1 is a crucial hormone. Your intestinal cells release it to tell your brain, hey, you are full, you should stop eating.
Okay, so how do the microbes mess with that?
Well, certain microbial profiles, particularly the ones fostered by high-sugar diets, are just really poor at processing amino acids like glutamate.
I see.
And this metabolic failure actually suppresses the secretion of GLP-1. So your brain just never receives the biological memo that you've eaten enough.
The bacteria are essentially cutting the communication lines to ensure you keep feeding them.
Basically, yes.
So an intense urge for a sugary snack might not be a failure of willpower or discipline at all. It might literally be a specific strain of bacteria chemically demanding its preferred fuel.
Yeah, it reframes the whole concept of willpower.
It really does. And this structural understanding also helps demystify the concept of a gut feeling. Because we usually talk about intuition as if it's this mystical sixth sense.
Right, but biologically, a gut feeling is just the result of rapid subconscious data processing.
Break that down for us.
So the brain is continuously receiving visceral data from the vagus nerve, things like changes in heart rate, muscle tension, and the current chemical state of digestion.
And this sensory process is called interoception.
Exactly, interoception.
So the brain takes that raw physical data and routes it through areas like the insular cortex, matching the current physical state against past experiences and mental shortcuts or heuristics.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because conscious, logical thought is metabolically expensive and it's slow.
Right. It takes time to think things through.
Yeah. So when your body encounters a complex situation, it crunches all that visceral data and delivers a rapid conclusion way before your conscious mind can even articulate why.
So that sudden feeling of clarity or, a sudden wave of dread is really just your biological hardware executing a background calculation.
Yeah. The gut feeling is literally the immediate printout of that calculation.
That is so cool. But naturally, because these mechanisms are so foundational to our daily lives, the commercial wellness industry has completely saturated the market with quick fixes.
Oh, absolutely.
So we really need to define the actual scientific reality versus, the marketing narratives.
This raises an important question. How do we navigate an industry that relies so heavily on over-promising?
Yeah, where do we even start?
Well, the first concept to discard is the idea of a perfect microbiome.
Right.
Everyone's microbial fingerprint is uniquely adapted to their environment, their genetics, their history. There is no universal, idealized state to achieve.
Okay. And the same logic applies to those direct-to-consumer microbiome testing kits, right?
Yes, definitely.
Because you mail in a sample and they promise this fully customized roadmap to optimal health. But the scientific consensus indicates these tests are just snapshots of a highly transient ecosystem.
Very transient.
Your microbiome shifts based on what you ate for dinner yesterday, your current cortisol levels, and even your circadian rhythm. So a single snapshot just doesn't offer a definitive diagnostic tool.
Exactly. We also need to be realistic about the commercial toolkit out there. Like
Right.
probiotics, the live bacteria you find in supplements or standard yogurt, they are frequently marketed as permanent colonizers.
But they aren't.
No, in reality, most are just transient tourists. They pass through the digestive tract, and they can potentially offer some anti-inflammatory benefits while they are present, but they rarely establish a permanent population.
Okay, so then you have prebiotics. These are the complex, indigestible plant fibers found in foods like garlic, onions, asparagus, and oats.
Right.
If probiotics are the tourists,
Right.
prebiotics are the actual fertilizer. This is the structural food that sustains the beneficial bacteria that are already residing in your gut.
Exactly. And then you might see symbiotics, which are simply commercial formulations that combine both the live bacteria and the fiber fuel. However, researchers increasingly point toward fermented foods like kimchi, traditional sauerkraut, and kefir.
Why fermented foods over supplements?
Because they provide a synergistic matrix of both live microbes and the metabolic byproducts they create during fermentation. And that seems to offer a much more robust environmental benefit than just taking an isolated supplement capsule.
That makes a lot of sense. If this episode is giving you a new way to think about your health, your habits, or your emotions, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because every deep dive here is about expanding understanding.
And, we do know that human clinical trials are still catching up to the extensive animal models.
Right.
So from a practical standpoint, the real question is how should we alter our daily routines to support this complex ecosystem?
So what does this all mean for the listener who wants to apply this science today?
Well, the data is pretty clear.
Yeah, the most consistent evidence-backed strategy highlighted across the research isn't some expensive proprietary supplement, it's just dietary diversity. Specifically, the data suggests aiming for 30 different types of plant foods a week.
30 plants.
30. Which sounds like a lot, honestly.
It does, but the rationale behind that specific number relates to the specialized diets of those microbes we talked about. Because different bacterial strains ferment different types of fiber, eating a wide variety of plants creates a sort of diverse buffet.
Okay.
And a diverse buffet sustains a diverse microbial population, which is really the hallmark of a resilient gut barrier and a well-regulated immune response.
And honestly, hitting 30 plants isn't as daunting as it sounds when you actually break it down.
Not at all.
Like, a standard meal might have 3 or 4, but adding, a sprinkle of hemp seeds, some sliced almonds, a handful of arugula, maybe 3 different colors of bell peppers, to a single meal that scales the number up really quickly.
Exactly. By doing that, you are intentionally feeding the fiber-dependent citizens that produce those calming short-chain fatty acids.
Right.
However, the structural integrity of the gut-brain axis cannot be maintained by diet alone.
Because the vagus nerve runs in both directions.
Exactly.
A stressed, anxious brain sends distress signals down to the gut. This chronic stress actually alters digestive motility, meaning how fast or slow food moves through the tract, and it actively increases intestinal permeability.
Which triggers that whole inflammatory loop we discussed earlier.
Right.
So managing psychological stress, prioritizing sleep architecture, and engaging in regular physical movement Those are non-negotiable elements.
Yeah.
If the brain is constantly flooding the system with cortisol and panic signals, dietary fiber alone just cannot overcome that chemical cascade. The entire biological network requires maintenance.
And I think approaching it as an interconnected network actually removes a lot of the guilt we usually associate with health.
Oh, absolutely.
Like tracking how a shift in your fiber intake alters your baseline anxiety. It doesn't have to be a rigid chore.
Yeah.
And when a sudden craving hits, you don't have to view it as a personal moral failing. You can analyze it mechanically and just think, oh, my internal populations are demanding sugar right now. I just need to feed the fiber-dependent microbes to rebalance the system.
Yeah, it treats the body with curiosity rather than judgment.
Exactly.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it fundamentally alters the definition of an individual.
Oh, so?
Well, in biology, there's this concept of the holobiont. It describes a host and its vast array of symbiotic microbes functioning together as a single evolutionary and ecological unit.
Wow.
So you are not a solitary organism just navigating the world. You are literally a walking, breathing biome.
That is wild to think about.
Right. So when you feel physically or emotionally depleted, it is often just your inner ecosystem communicating a lack of structural support. It's not a personal flaw.
We are an entire universe to them.
We really are.
And that dynamic leads me to a final thought I want you, the listener, to mull over.
Yep.
The sources noted that diet-induced changes to our microbiome can actually subtly influence social decision-making and how we respond to stress.
Right.
So if our individual cravings, our daily moods, and our social reactions are partly authored by our gut bacteria, how might the highly processed, low-fiber diets of entire nations be silently steering our collective culture, our societal anxiety levels, and just the way we interact with each other on a global scale?
That is a profound biological question to consider.
Find My Mind MashUps everywhere you listen. Amazon Music, Audible, Facebook, Pocket Casts, Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective could shape our next deep dive.